She came back to pick up her car. The papers were signed, everything should have been done until she asked a simple question. Why wasn't this fee on the contract yesterday? The salesman didn't smile. His voice dropped, sharp and cold. You already signed, so shut up and take the car. What he didn't know was that someone was watching from just outside the finance room. Someone who didn't look like a movie star that day. No suit, no sunglasses, no press. Just a quiet man in a faded hoodie and worn sneakers. But behind those calm eyes was the real owner of the dealership, and his name was Keanu Reeves. A contract, a baby carrier on the floor, a mother trying to stay composed, and a lie that was about to unravel. Tell me, have you ever been pressured into silence just because you didn't know how the system worked? Comment 1 if you let it slide, comment 2 if you spoke up. Either way, you're going to want to see what Keanu did next. Keanu Reeves didn't pull into the dealership lot like a man who owned it. No tinted Escalade, no valet, no entourage, just a black 2009 Honda Civic with a cracked rear light and a stubborn rattle in the suspension. He parked it 2 blocks away under a soft shade tree that still carried spring leaves, then walked the rest of the way with a slow, steady pace, like he had all the time in the world. The air in Charlotte, Tennessee that morning had a calm wake to it, light mist drifting off the sidewalk, soft enough to blur the dealership sign until he was just a few steps away. Reeves Motors, bold white letters across the glass, his name, his legacy, but something about it didn't feel right, not anymore. He didn't go through the front doors, he came in through the side where the service bay met the break room hallway, a space no customer ever used, a place where honest work used to start early, where oil stains were badges of labor and not signs of neglect. The bell above the side door gave a polite ding. No one looked up. Keanu paused, his eyes adjusting to the dim fluorescent hum inside. The reception desk was unmanned. 2 salespeople stood chatting near the water cooler. Another desk sat empty with a stack of unpaid service orders half slid under a clipboard. It was nearly 9:50 a.m. and the showroom still felt half asleep. This branch had once been a model of consistency. Medium volume, high integrity, low drama, or so he thought. He hadn't told the regional VP he was coming. He hadn't booked travel through the company system. No one even knew he was in the state. That was the point, because in the last 3 months he'd started hearing whispers. Nothing major, just little things, a padded fee in Nashville, a warranty discrepancy in Franklin, customers feeling rushed. Something about the tone had changed, and tone, he knew from experience, always traveled from the inside out. As he walked deeper into the floor, he passed a line of cars. Fresh trade-ins lined up with dealer tags and just enough shine to hide wear. That's when he saw her. She stood alone near the glass door labeled Finance Delivery, holding a thick manila folder against her chest, a baby carrier rested at her feet. The child, maybe 5 or 6 months old, was bundled in a faded yellow blanket, softly cooing in his sleep. She wasn't speaking to anyone, just waiting. Her eyes stayed low but aware, like someone scanning the room without moving her head. Keanu stopped in his tracks. Something about her looked familiar. He stepped sideways behind a display of seasonal tire offers and studied her profile. She had a quiet stillness, shoulders relaxed but alert, posture calm but certain. Then it hit him, Rebecca Miles. She'd worked for the company years ago, an accounting assistant at the Memphis regional office. Sharp, detail-driven, low drama. She'd once flagged an issue with invoicing tied to a bulk purchase. She'd been right, but the correction never reached the field, and shortly after she'd quietly disappeared from the system. No HR complaints, no formal goodbye, just gone. And now here she was, not behind a desk but waiting as a customer. Folder too thick for a routine handoff. Keanu ducked behind a rotating brochure stand, not wanting her to see him. Not yet. He needed to watch to understand. The man walking toward her, clipboard in hand, tight suit, slick grin, was everything Keanu hoped this place hadn't become. Chad Merritt, if the name tag was accurate. You walked with the confidence of someone who thought charm was a substitute for clarity. "Miss Miles," Chad said warmly, voice butter soft. "So glad to see you again. We've just got one more thing to finalize before you're out the door." Rebecca followed him toward a small office tucked between the finance room and break room. Keanu circled behind the customer lounge and watched through the reflection on the glass divider. He could see Chad talking, paper in hand, tablet lit up. Rebecca sat still, folder in her lap, listening closely. Keanu narrowed his eyes just enough to read the body language. Rebecca's shoulders had tensed, her fingers flexed slightly. She said something. Chad leaned in, all charm. That was when Keanu noticed it. 3 new printouts on the desk, not corporate format, not company fonts, but close enough to look official if you weren't trained to see the difference. He felt his stomach tighten. He hadn't walked in today expecting to intervene. He came for the truth. But sometimes the truth doesn't wait for your timing. It just shows up in the form of a mother, a manila folder, and a contract that shouldn't exist. And somewhere in that moment, Keanu knew something in this place had quietly rotted, and no one even noticed until now. He hadn't planned to step in, at least not yet, but standing behind that brochure stand, Keanu Reeves felt something shift. It wasn't just the discomfort on Rebecca's face. It was the practiced rhythm in Chad Merritt's voice. The same rhythm Keanu had heard from fast talkers 100 times before. Too confident, too smooth, too dangerous. Chad handed Rebecca a new set of documents, printed seconds earlier, and laid them flat like he was offering dessert. Totally standard, he said, tapping the top page. Just a few post-signing compliance items, nothing to stress over. Rebecca's fingers tensed around her manila folder. Her voice was soft but steady. This wasn't on the form I signed yesterday. Keanu tilted his head slightly, watching, listening. He already knew the answer. That form was fake. Chad didn't miss a beat. Right, so corporate updated some delivery language last quarter, new compliance rules, same total price, just itemized differently. Trust me, it happens all the time. Keanu nearly scoffed out loud. He had helped write the current compliance policy himself. Nothing could be added post-signing without full digital acknowledgement, timestamp, and management override. And certainly not fees like the ones Keanu could already see faintly printed on that page. $495 interior cents. Electronics protection plan. $275 interior cents interior fee. $395 vinetching and recovery service. That last one made Keanu freeze. Vinetching? It had been eliminated dealership-wide in 2021 after a regional audit uncovered reps charging customers for a service they never performed. Keanu had personally ordered the removal of that fee. From his vantage point, he could only see partial headers, but it was enough. The font wasn't corporate standard, the line spacing was off. The logo looked pasted in. It was a custom printout made to resemble an official contract. It wasn't just shady, it was fabricated. Rebecca's voice cut through again. Why is the electronics plan marked as required? She asked, low but firm. Chad leaned back in his chair, smirking slightly. Technically, it's not, but it's bundled into the financing offer. It optimizes your credit score and locks in your lower rate. You winked like it was some inside favor. Keanu closed his eyes for half a second. That was fiction, pure pressure fiction, and Rebecca knew it too. She didn't speak right away, just stared at the page. Her baby stood quietly in the carrier beside her feet, a small rustle that broke the air like a whisper. But she stayed seated, didn't raise her voice, didn't challenge him outright. Chad kept pushing. Look, I get it. It's a lot of paperwork. Most folks just want the keys at this point. He slid a pen across the table. Just a quick acknowledgement here and we'll get you at the door. Rebecca didn't move. Her eyes stayed on the numbers. Can I take this home to review? She asked. That was the moment Chad's demeanor changed. The sales smile evaporated. He tapped the page hard with the pen. The car is being detailed as we speak. If you walk now, we'll have to rerun the whole file. That changes everything. Loan terms, delivery timeline, all of it. Then came the sentence that made the air in Keanu's chest go still. You already signed, so shut up and take the car. Keanu didn't step forward, not yet. The room didn't go silent, but it felt thinner, tighter, like something was pulling at its edges. He watched her. Rebecca didn't flinch, her posture didn't shift, but her grip on the folder changed, firmer, not in fear but in control. Chad tried to backpedal with a forced smile. It's all there, we just itemize differently now, standard stuff. Keanu's jaw clenched. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a hustle, polished, rehearsed, weaponized against someone who looked like she wouldn't push back. Rebecca's voice cut in again, soft but clear. Vinetching? I don't remember that being on the original quote. Chad shrugged like it was a footnote. Every vehicle gets it, theft deterrent, already done. Keanu had heard enough. He stepped away from the brochure stand and started moving. Not fast, not dramatic. Just deliberate, the long way around the sales floor, passing half-watched monitors and vending machines and idle desks. Every detail confirmed what he'd feared. This wasn't just about Chad, it was the culture, it was neglect dressed up as efficiency. He stopped by a row of used inventory, close enough to see into the glass-walled finance room. Rebecca was still seated, Chad was circling a total with his pen. The pressure was on full, and that's when Keanu saw it, the moment of hesitation. Rebecca glanced toward the exit, just for a second. Not because she was confused, because she was calculating how much she could afford to lose just to get out of there. How much her time and safety and dignity cost when measured against starting the whole process over. Keanu had seen that look before, in tired parents, minimum wage workers, first-time buyers with no room for mistakes. He recognized it because he'd lived it years ago, watching his own mother hesitate before signing the papers on a used Oldsmobile she'd worked 2 jobs to afford. That was the final trigger, because Chad wasn't just padding numbers. He was betting on silence. Betting that a woman with a baby and no backup would fold quietly. That Keanu wasn't going to let that happen, not this time, not in the building with his name on the glass. He took a breath, stepped forward, and walked straight toward the door. What happened next didn't just change a deal, it changed the entire floor. Keanu didn't break stride. He didn't knock, he didn't clear his throat or wait to be acknowledged. He simply opened the door and stepped into the finance office like he belonged there, because he did, and in that instant everything changed. Chad froze mid-sentence, pen still in his hand. Rebecca looked up, startled. Her eyes flicked toward Keanu, not recognizing him immediately, until she did. A flicker of recognition passed across her face, not from Hollywood but from something deeper. A memory perhaps of someone who used to believe in the numbers the company once stood for. Keanu's voice was calm, but each word landed like a stone on glass. That delivery fee, he said, nodding toward the contract, it's not part of the agreement. Chad blinked. Excuse me, he said, already defensive. Keanu didn't answer. He pointed at the paper on the desk, the vinetching, the electronics protection plan. Show me where it says this dealership is authorized to charge for that. Chad's mouth opened, but nothing came out. His eyes darted toward the hallway, toward the computer screen, toward anything but the man standing across from him. I don't know who you are, he muttered, trying to regain control, but you will. Keanu said, and right now, I want you to explain every one of these charges in front of her. Chad squared his shoulders, trying to reassert his posture. Sir, with all due respect, I've worked here 4 years. I know the packages. These are all standard. Keanu didn't even blink. He just tapped the page again. Show us. Show her, right now. For a moment, no one spoke. Rebecca slowly stood, lifting the carrier handle with quiet grace. Her expression didn't change, but the room felt different now. Her silence became something else, a presence, a wall Chad could no longer talk through. He looked down at the page, then back at Keanu. It's in the system, he said, voice thinner now. Finance will break it down in the final printout. No, Keanu replied, you break it down, right here, right now. Behind them, someone entered the hallway. Bahwaston, the branch's general manager, stood just outside the doorway, still holding his morning coffee. When he saw who was inside, the cup almost slipped from his hand. Mr. Reeves, he said, breathless. Chad turned sharply. Wait, what? Keanu didn't turn, didn't acknowledge the whisper, didn't correct him. His eyes stayed on Rebecca. I'm sorry, he said gently. This isn't how we treat people, not here, not under my name. Rebecca's brows drew slightly inward, still absorbing the shift in tone. Chad stood stiff now, clipboard sagging from one hand. But Keanu was already turning. He addressed Tom calmly. I need a conference room now. Tom, pale and visibly sweating, nodded and motioned down the hallway. Chad didn't move. He just stood there blinking like he'd just realized the ground beneath him had changed. Keanu turned back to Rebecca. His voice was softer this time, Please come with me. I want to make this right. She hesitated for half a second, then nodded. Her steps were careful but steady, her baby stirring faintly in the carrier at her side. As they passed through the showroom floor, the air seemed to still again. Conversations died mid-sentence. Phones went silent. A few employees looked away, others just stared. Keanu didn't flinch. He walked with purpose, no anger, no theater, just clarity. Near the front desk, a receptionist sat bolt upright at her computer, hands frozen above the keyboard. Keanu stopped briefly. Did you greet her when she came in? The receptionist stammered, I don't remember. He nodded once, not unkindly. Start remembering or start looking. Then he continued toward the conference room. Inside, he pulled out a chair for Rebecca and took a seat across from her. Tom entered next, lips tight, his notepad trembling in one hand. Chad followed last, trying not to show how much he was sweating. He didn't sit, just leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, pretending it was casual. It wasn't. Keanu picked up the clipboard Chad had left behind. This the quote you gave her? He asked without looking up. Yeah, Chad replied flatly. Keanu flipped the page, scanned the charges, then circled 3 in bold strokes with a black pen. Explain these, he said. Had shifted. Everybody includes those. It's industry standard. Do you have documentation showing they're approved? Keanu asked. Chad shrugged. They're in the system. No, Keanu said, they're not. I rewrote that system. The netching was removed in 2021. Powertrain coverage maxes at 5 years, not this electronics nonsense. You added over $2,000 in phantom fees, and you did it after she'd already signed. Rebecca's hand hovered over the baby carrier. She didn't speak, just stared at the page, her fingers tight around the strap. Keanu turned the page back toward Chad. You told her the payment would be $349 a month. That's only possible if she put down $2,000, and even then, the APR is padded by 2.5 points. Chad's voice rose a notch. I hit my numbers, customers leave happy. I know how to sell. Keanu leaned in, calm but resolute. No, you know how to pressure. There's a difference. Tom finally spoke, voice brittle. I didn't know you was doing this, Mr. Reeves, I swear. The reports looked clean. Keanu turned to him. That's the problem. You looked at the numbers, I looked at the people. Rebecca stood now, her voice low but firm. I thought this was a good place. I really did. Keanu's answer came with weight. It was supposed to be, and I'm sorry it wasn't. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a card, and slid it across the table. This is my direct line. If you still want the car, you'll get it. Clean deal, no games. She took it slowly. Thank you, she said. Keanu looked at Chad. You're done here. Clean out your desk. Chad's jaw dropped. Come on. No negotiation. Keanu said sharply, you knew better. You just didn't care. Chad stormed out, but no one stopped him. Tom lowered his eyes. Rebecca looked down at the card again, like it was something rare. And Keanu, well, he was already thinking beyond the room, because fixing one contract wasn't enough. What needed fixing was the culture, and tomorrow, every single person in that building would learn what accountability really looked like. Fixing one contract wasn't enough. That much was clear the moment Chad walked out of the room, muttering under his breath like the problem